Kia ora, good evening. Gloria Davis, wife of Easy Rider skipper Riwai Karatai, was sentenced in the Invercargill District Court today.
In January, Ms Davis was found guilty of charges laid against her and the company AZ1 regarding the sinking of the vessel near Stewart Island in March 2012. Ms Davis is the sole director of the company that owned the fishing vessel Easy Rider and widow of skipper Riwai Karatai, who lost his life along with 7 others when Easy Rider foundered. Ms Davis was today fined $3,000 to be paid at the rate of $20 per week. She was also sentenced to 350 hours community service, which is to be carried out in Bluff. The company AZ1 was fined $204,500. 10 charges had been laid by the Maritime Safety Authority against either Ms Davis or her company AZ1 surrounding the operation of the vessel.
The Community Trust of Southland will grant a further $1 million to Stadium Southland's rebuild and will also offer a limited major grants round to other southern projects later this year.
The $1 million contribution to the stadium will bring the Trust's total contribution to the facility to almost $10 million. Trust Chair Tracy Hicks says the Community Trust wanted to do its part to help complete the funding picture and at the same time leverage government funding to finish the job off. As well as $1 million for the stadium, the Community Trust has also earmarked a further $1 million to be made available for application by other major projects in the Trust's area, which covers Southland, the Wakatipu Basin and West Otago. Applications to this $1 million fund will be called for later this year, with decisions as to how the $1 million will be allocated to be made in the first part of 2015.
The lack of strategic direction and unviable returns within the sheep and beef industries are concerns presented to Ministry for Primary Industries Nathan Guy recently. Chair of Environment Southland Ali Timms met with the Minister in a bid to add urgency around creating a sustainable and economic red meat industry to meet policy statements for export recovery and freshwater quality goals.
So you can do all of the, the studies and you can improve performance and genetics behind the gate, but if you're not getting that money beyond the gate, people, it's just too tough for some of these guys, so they'll choose to go to a more intensive type of farming.
In particular, you were talking about dairy.
Dairying and dairying support, which we see a lot of now. I think there wouldn't be too many sheep farms in Southland that probably don't do some type of dairy support. It gives them some cash flow and so on, which is great, but unfortunately we're finding that the intensive winter grazing in particular is one of our biggest issues down here, and the outputs for nutrients and so on from that type of system are even higher than the dairy platform outputs and obviously much higher than traditionally just a straight sheep and beef farm.
What was Mr Guy's response to that lack of strategic direction within that red meat industry?
He agreed, and he could see clear links between what's happening economically and environmentally within the sector. His view was that the drive needs to come from the industry, and he's looking for a united voice from them, and I can understand that, and he's more than happy to have a summit and so on. I just think we need to broaden the discussion and the argument with everybody and have some real push coming from farmers. So this isn't just about better economic returns, but better environmental returns as well.
The Meat Industry Excellence Group have been talking with farmers for quite some time. They don't seem to be getting a lot of ground though.
I think they're making gains, but it's slowly. They've had a number of new directors which have come on board with some of the companies, and I think that's helpful. And I support what those guys are doing. The Meat Industry Association also have a strategy, and we're looking to meet with those guys shortly and just say, well, what's happening? What are you doing collectively as a group? Because at the moment, returns aren't fantastic. We're probably still overcapacitated in the south. There does need to be some rationalisation, but it's up to the industry to work that out.
We still have Silver Ferns and Alliance unable to get on the same page. How realistic is this that we're going to get some wins out of this going forward?
Look, Margaret, it's going to happen eventually, but I'm pushing to see that happens sooner rather than later, because otherwise the consequences just aren't great for us down here. It makes our job a lot harder as a regional council.
As a regional council, recently you have made some changes where the particular land use has to be suitable for dairying. What kind of impact do you expect that will have?
It's helping, And I think it's important that before people, now what happens is before they convert or think about buying a property, they need to look at the soil types in particular and see if they are suitable or not. And that's about risk mitigation. So I think that's a help, but you can't deny that it's still a move from usually a less to a more intensive type of farming. So the predicted outputs of that type of farming will be greater as far as nutrients go than what the system is that it's replacing.
MidSafe is warning about the dangers of buying medicines online following a joint week-long operation led by Interpol on substandard, illegal or fake medicines crossing the border. The largest ever global operation resulted in more than 10,000 websites being shut down. Medicine for erectile dysfunction, insomnia, endocrine disorders and heart disease were the most prevalent medicines crossing our borders, with the most common sources being India, Switzerland and Great Britain. MedSafe strongly encourages anyone intending to buy prescription medicines via the internet to consult their doctor, who can advise on potential side effects, interactions with other medicines and appropriate dosage. Imported prescription medicines are referred to MidSafe by customs, who ensure law compliance, and most medicines detained are held until purchasers provide a valid doctor's prescription or are destroyed if they don't. Stay with us. Up after the break, 60 southern farms get free advice in a new pilot, and winter's heating up at the SPCA. Welcome back. 60 Southland farms are taking part in a new pilot program underway in the south that includes the dairy, sheep and beef, arable and deer sectors. Focus activity plans provide a free service developed by Environment Southland's land sustainability team to give farmers straightforward advice on 3 key areas that are known to have significant effect on water quality.
On farm, we're focusing on 3 areas: riparian management, nutrient management and winter grazing. And what we're trying to achieve is better uptake of good management practices in those 3 areas. The way that the farms are selected, we've put out a little bit of media around that, so sometimes farmers have rung us and said, yes, we'd really like one of these plans done, and other times the officers are ringing and approaching people and asking if they'd like one done.
Are you tutoring farmers on the best management of their farm?
Yeah, so what we're doing is we're mapping things like the existing riparian management and then recommending actions for them to take with riparian. We're mapping the existing winter grazing paddocks for the current year and trying to map out the future years as well, and then looking at grazing direction and some of those cultivation techniques that they could be applying to have better environmental results. And with the nutrient management, it's about nutrient plans and budgets if they don't have them.
Technology's playing a big part in this. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yes, we've got the officers doing this mapping on a cell phone platform, so it's new for the council, and yeah, we're giving that a go.
As an ideal outcome for the council, what are you hoping to achieve out of it?
So what we're hoping to achieve is better uptake of good management practices and being able to recommend the five top recommendations for farmers on their farm within those 3 focus activities.
What is the funding for the pilot and how's it been funded?
So the funding for the pilot program is just using the existing funding that we have. So it's not requiring any more funding, and that comes out of the land sustainability rate.
And if the pilot is successful, where to in the future?
I think if it is successful, we'll have a look at how we can roll this out into either particular areas in the region or for particular activities. So we're just going to wait and see how it rolls out, but it has the potential to grow wider.
Changes to the gambling sector are expected to reap more funds for communities and tighten up on potential dishonest gaming activities. Changes to the way funds are distributed from gaming machines will be staggered over several years and increase by 5% to a minimum of 42%, potentially increasing annual returns to communities by $10 million a year. Cabinet also gave the go-ahead for transparency of grant decision-making that may include information of the grant's purpose, geographic location of recipients and whether applicants are local, regional or national organisations. Venue payments to operate pokies are also set to change to a commission-based system. Changes will take place over a 5-year transition period. Southland SPCA Operations Manager Richard Hay says the first winter for the new facility at Woodend will provide a test of resources as the energy bills to heat the property climb. Mr Hay says the building is 10 times the size of an average house and as a result there's a power bill to match.
Well, we are heading into winter, so it's a good test for the new solar system and the underfloor heating. We've had it on for just on 2 months now, so we're still learning things about that. That's probably our biggest issue at the moment, is coming to terms with how to handle that. This is 10 times the size of an average house, so we've got 10 times the bill of an average house, so it is working out quite expensive at this point.
Are you happy that you have got the funding at this stage to pay those bills? You won't have to turn anything off?
Well, we're looking at ways of conserving. We have got the solar power, which is helping somewhat towards that, but that'll kick in pretty much during the summer where we won't have to have heating at all. So we're hoping over a 12-month period that things will work out pretty well. So it's just early days to know how the heating will pan out over the 12-month period.
Let's talk about other facilities. Firstly, before we get on to the animals, you mentioned off-camera the education room. You haven't been able to get that up and running. What's required there, and if anyone can help?
Yeah, we're getting an increased demand for people wanting to know about animal welfare, and we're putting in place an education program, and we're running with that now. The problem is that we would like to upgrade the quality of our delivery in terms of having some more tools to do that, and by that I mean we don't have a whiteboard, for example, in the education room. We don't have an overhead projector. We don't have able to use PowerPoint. We don't have a laptop to put into any sort of projector, because the funding has got to that sort of stage. I mean, we have got to the point where we haven't tar sealed the driveway because that money was best put into the animals at that point. So we're still needing quite a bit of assistance around those sorts of areas. Even the ground, for example, we don't have a lawnmower, but we have this massive ground around here all done out in grass. Come Christmas, or come summer, we're going to have to address that. So there is quite a number of little things like that which would be a big help if we could get help from the community to help us in the work that we're doing.
I'm sure there's a lot of people out there who want to help. Let's talk about them helping also with the animals. You've got a lot of kittens and a few dogs.
Yeah, we've. It's almost like it's been 2 kitten seasons this year, and because the weather's been a little bit milder, and the summer seems to have been a little bit longer. So we've had a lot of kittens. We're still getting kittens in now when you'd expect no kittens to be born around now. So we get quite a lot of cat food, which is really great, but people tend to forget that kittens can't eat the cat food that they're donating to us. So we had a period where we were really desperate for kitten food. We're still having to buy kitten food because we've still got young kittens there, and more kittens are coming through over the next few weeks for adoption. And people have been really good in that space. Likewise in the dogs, we've got a lot of puppies at the moment for some reason. Not so many bigger dogs, but we've got quite a few puppies. But there again, they're not ready for adoption. They're still too young, so we've got quite a lot of those coming through.
And that's it from the news crew tonight. Weather's up next from us. Good evening.